Wherever your day does or doesn't take you, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Arizona wants it to be the best it can be. We provide access to online care and partner with hospitals where you can get the treatment you need so you can do life.
As an organization that's been in business in Arizona for over 80 years, there's a lot of things to pick from as to what is our strongest strength in our culture. For me, I would pick our culture of caring. Our employees care intensely about our members, the community, and one another. When we survey our employees as part of our engagement scores, we ask them at the end of it to give us a few words that describe how they feel about the culture. And what we hear is caring, which happens to be one of our organizational values. We hear words like collaboration, family, and customer focus. So, from my perspective, the fact that our employees care so much about one another, it makes it a great place to come to work, and our employees feel that way as well. Diversity, equity, inclusion as a formal program at Blue Cross Blue Shield of Arizona is actually a relatively new thing that we do, but we've always been very diverse. 44% of our workforce is minority and 70% is female. Our CEO, Pam Cahaley, is female, obviously, and our C-suite, over 70% are females and about 20% are minorities. So we're very diverse, but we can do better. With the George Floyd tragedy a few years ago, our CEO challenged us that as an organization we had to do better. So we started with our board of directors and from the top down and coming out with a statement, which we call our diversity credo. And that was our board. In simple terms, what they said was discrimination is real and it's a problem, and we need to make sure that there's no place for it in our organization and that we see diversity as a business imperative. It's consistent with our mission to inspire health and gives us an advantage over other organizations from a talent acquisition and getting the most out of our diverse thinking. So we started with that statement from our board of directors, and then our executive leadership team, which is our C-suite, came out with a diversity pledge, which was basically the things that we're going to focus on over the next 5 years. Yeah, so our employees really do care a lot, and caring is one of our values as an organization. With respect to, I see it breaking down into a couple key areas. One is the community. We care about the community. Our employees serve on a number of boards. We also tie our employees. Every employee in our company has a goal, and they're tied to, which is to bend the opioid and suicide deaths in the state of Arizona. And so we have our employees, and we pay them to go out and volunteer at organizations that help to bend that curve, as well as do other things such as improve mental health, substance use disorder, and diabetes. So we really do care intensely about the community. The pandemic did impact our work environment, but not as I expected. Actually we saw our culture get stronger during that time. But it really was a crazy time. When the governor issued the order for people to work from home, we went from a handful of employees working 100% remote to over 2,600 employees, and we did that in a 10-day window. And as you remember, there was a lot going on in the community. There was a lot of confusion, there was fear, COVID-19 obviously was killing people, there was misinformation, and what we quickly realized that we had to build trust with our employees. And we had a strong foundation to build on, but it had to be unparalleled given the environment that we were dealing with. So our CEO, Pam Cahaley, really set some guiding principles for us. And the first one was that employee safety is going to be the number one thing that we think about. That's going to be the first thing that guides everything we do, is safety. The second thing that we were going to do was going to be on transparency, that we're sharing things that employees know what's going on. The third would be we're going to follow the science. And the science was conflicting itself at times. I mean, sometimes you hear one thing, a week later you hear something else. So those were kind of our guiding principles. And every decision we made, we bounced them up against those. And I think leadership is the key to almost everything you do, and it starts with the top. And when you have a dynamic, charismatic, transparent, authentic, highly competent, intelligent leader like our CEO, Pam Cahaley, who is bought into everything we do. I mean, Pam was first and foremost with our employees, interacting with them, providing them the information they needed to hear. And it's providing everything. It's commenting on things that they don't know about, sharing the good, the bad, the ugly, not running away from it. Employees want to know, and employees can respect that things might not be going well, but they want to know what's going on so that they can be a part of the solution too. And I think that breeds incredible credibility with our employees, And that was our number one asset, quite frankly. It starts with the leader. And if your CEO is that bought into what you're doing, guess what? It's a surprise, surprise. So is everybody else, right? I mean, and what we saw is that through her vision and through her steadfast leadership, it started at the top and it went all the way down through our organization.
Yeah, it seems.
So when I think about the things that we do to attract and retain talent, it really falls into kind of three buckets. The first one I think is very basic. It's total rewards. It's the blocking and tackling of HR. Are your compensation and benefit programs, are your work-life balance programs competitive with market? Are they leading market? Are they the type of things that employees want to come to or want to stay with? So for us as an organization, we started with looking at our compensation programs. Our merit pool the merit bonus that we do is actually a very generous relative to market. That's one, to make sure that we can reward our talented workforce, as well as we know that inflation's going on and that employee pay is being eroded by that. So we started with a very generous merit pool. We also are looking at all positions in the organization real time. So our compensation professionals are working with our talent acquisition team along with our HR business partners and the business. And when they hear about other organizations hiring or we're losing talent, we're looking at exit interviews like others to do, we're quick to price those positions and make sure they're competitive with the market. And if we need to, we make off-cycle adjustments to them as well. Additionally, we've used retention bonuses where needed. I mean, it's always cheaper to give a little retention bonus and keep a great employee than to have them leave, go hire a new one, have to teach them, get up to speed. So a little money spent is wise in that regard. But workability is a concept that was born out of the pandemic. Before the pandemic, we really had very few employees that worked remotely 100% of the time. And if you'd asked us before, if you asked me and I was being truthful, I would have told you, I don't think there's a lot of positions that could ever work remotely. Well, surprise, surprise, I'm wrong. 2 years later, we've got employees that are working remotely, and our metrics, our customer service metrics, all of our metrics are as high as they've ever been and higher. And we realized during the pandemic that employees really like to work remote too. And if we thought we were going to go back to how business was pre-pandemic, we were grossly mistaken. And that individuals, if we did that, that was going to be an abrasion for them and hanging on to them. So we came up with this concept, which is workability. And workability, the first tenet of workability is customer focus, which means no matter what we do, our customers have to be serviced. And they have to be serviced the way that we expect them to. And if that happens, then employees have choice. And that's the second tenet. And choice being, they can decide when they work remotely, they can decide when they work in the office, and that's for them to decide. And then the third is basically fairness. And through our workability strategy, we expect that a large number of our employees will continue to work remotely. It's actually been able to open up talent pools for us outside the state. Before the pandemic, we didn't recruit a lot of people outside the state. Now we're able to do that if we're willing to do business in those states. It's allowed us to retain talent, where if somebody's spouse left the state in the old days, our employee would go with them, right? Well, now, if that state is an area where we do business and we're willing to do that, we can keep them through our workability strategy. So to me, if you want a best practice, you want to improve engagement, you start with communication. And the second thing I would say is listening to employees, hearing what they have to say. And sometimes they're going to say things that you don't like. And sometimes they're going to say things that might not even be right. But keeping open-minded, and when you see that there are patterns of things, dealing with them and addressing those concerns and being transparent about it and saying, like, if something didn't go right, just admitting it. It didn't go right. We're going to try this again. And that goes a long way. And the last thing I would say is, for me, as a best practice, is other places that I've worked with employee engagement, we do the engagement survey. Everybody takes the survey, the scores come back, and then leadership takes the scores and kind of like decides what we're going to do to improve engagement. I call that the trickle down, so it happens from the top. A few years back, we kind of flipped the model. And what we did is when you give the engagement score out, the survey out to people, they take the survey that comes back, then you turn the scores over to the individual work groups and say, these are the scores for your work groups and what you think needs to be fixed. You tell us how to fix it. And they form work teams to do that. And when we made that shift, we saw engagement scores climb fast, skyrocket. And it's really not rocket science if you think about it. If you ask people what they think and they provide you some feedback and then you interpret to figure out how you're going to fix that, it's far more powerful if you give that data to them and let them figure out how they're going to fix it. And I would say as a best practice, if you're doing engagement surveys and you're trying to build that, really empowering your employees and turn that data over to them, letting them figure out what the solution should be, will produce very big and positive results.